I come to you. It's one of the main campaign pledges and pillars made by the president. Can it succeed where its pioneers and elder siblings have failed? I mean, in many aspects, Uwezo Fund, the youth fund that were purposely formed also to address some of the challenges faced by businesses in the country.
Good morning, and first of all, I want to correct you. This is not what was promised during the campaign. During the campaign, the hustlers were told that they would be receiving a grant, which would not be subject to any interest for them to be able to support their businesses. What was launched yesterday is essentially a government-run Fuliza, that you are able to access this money for you to be able to do whatever it is you want to do with it and then to repay within 14 days. I have a few problems with not necessarily the concept. We all agree that, yes, there are people at the bottom of the pyramid who need support for their day-to-day business, like the ones he's talking about. As you know, Nairobi is the capital of the hustlers that he's talking about. And you've seen that he's not even using examples from Kiambu. He's using examples from Nairobi. So this tells you that this is where all these people, majority of them are headquartered. The first problem, my brother, is that there are questions about how the legal underpinning of this particular fund was arrived at. You know that, yesterday I was trying to find out these regulations. Just last week I heard that the central bank was still tweaking those regulations, only to learn that somehow Osoro and company sneaked in those regulations to Parliament yesterday, and they were passed in the morning. By the time the event was starting at the terminus there, apparently that is the same time that the members of Parliament were passing these regulations. And you know how regulations are processed. You require that they be handled by the Committee on Delegated Legislation. There's required to be public participation in those regulations so that the views of the people can be incorporated. None of that happened, but somehow the regulations were passed under the Public Finance Management Act. So that is the first question. Number two, you asked a question that I can see my brother, Governor Matangi, dodging, because it is Parliament to appropriate money for everything. And we are not clear when Parliament appropriates. He's talked about budgets. Those are budgets that have been passed in the past. I remember that maybe the last time there was a budget in this country, this fund was not part of that, you know. So we expected, unless we don't know how these things are done, that there would be maybe a supplementary appropriation for this particular fund. So the source of funds is problematic. The question of appropriation by Parliament of the funds is a problem. When he talks about 600 per second, I can assure you, majority of those people, 500 people, are just curious Kenyans who want to see, because we have been promised and lied to before. You remember the president, this current president, when he was deputy president, launched a Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi service in Nakuru. And within weeks, the thing was dead. So many of us, if you tell us that this government has launched something, we want to see for ourselves. We are doubting Thomas's because of the history we have with the 6 stadia that he pledged, with the other promises that he has never kept. So the problems that underpin this particular fund are there at inception, Ayub, and this is going to create problems even going on into the future. So you see that the amounts that you have spoken about are quite minimal. But what I read, you know, there was a flyer that was released explaining this fund, is that it is supposed to be in 4 components, that they've only launched 1 component, which is what they're calling the personal finance, that the microloans component will be launched later, which I believe is what needs to be regularized with proper appropriation from Parliament. There's an SME loans and a startup component that have not been launched. So the truth of the matter is that there is really nothing that has been launched, and many Kenyans who have attempted to get these resources, I have not met a single one who has said that yes, they were able to get this money from this particular service.
Sampling of the same depends on the government, and numbers will be of course issued by the relevant authorities. Honorable Silvanus Osoro, how then will, in your view, as